Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming. This is The Walking Dead Season 9. This is Walking Dead Day, and we're doing a brand new series called Love and Hate. We really want to get out in front of this. I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Of course, before we get started with everything, and I know there will be ample time to pay our respects, but Scott Wilson, also known as Hershel, you can see in the bottom right corner, passed away and apparently passed away with complications with leukemia, and this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So just want to say to everybody, hopefully your thoughts and prayers are with the family. And, every month should be Cancer Awareness Month, not just breast cancer, but, it's just so tragic that, in this day and age that I know we're making progress, but we'd just like to see more and more done. And, as a member of the Walking Dead community especially, it's just sad to see one of our own go. So I do have to transition into today's chat because this is something that we've talked about. So we will pay our respects all throughout the week, I'm sure. I'm going to really ramp into today and shift to something we've all been waiting for a long time, and this is season 9. We know that Rick is leaving, and we've discussed, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 months. How's it going to happen? What's going to go down? But I want to talk a little bit about, what Rick means to you guys, how much we love his character, how much we accept his character, and really give you a few facts of Beta, because I have not read that far into it. I have started to do a little bit more research into Beta and really, his character, his mindset, what he means. And I do have to say that I think... and I know many characters watch, or many fans watch Son of Anarchy, and they really like the actor. But I have to say, I'm going to go on board early on and say, no offense against the actor, but I absolutely hate Beta. I hate what he's bringing to the show. I'm going to despise this storyline. They have to do it. I know it's good for the comics, but I also, as a fan, I have a right to start getting angry about it early on. And I think it's going to be violent, it's going to be gruesome, and I do think that it is going to deflect a lot of our emotions from how the show is changing. So bear tight. We are going to do a lot of these love and hates all throughout the season. I want some passion, and I want some interest, and I want those comic fans out there really speaking up and talking about it. I know there are a lot of Negan fans out there. Even when I was kind of bashing Negan, so to speak, there are many people that said, hey, Kills, hold on a little bit. Negan's going to make it right a little bit later on. And we have kind of the luxury of knowing, I guess, a path, but also that, there are a lot of people that hated Dwight. And I think Dwight's role with the Whispers is going to, if they continue that storyline from the comics, Dwight is going to really redeem himself and then some. So, let's first talk about, thank you. I want to thank everybody for being here. Appreciate everybody, this a little bit earlier stream. We're going to do multiple streams today, so just be prepared. We'll probably wind this back up again at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so be prepared. And then, of course, 8 o'clock tonight, we've got the Walking Dead Countdown. I know many of you have already watched episode number 1 because through the Premiere app. I would ask that you keep the spoilers. We have a spoiler channel, or we have spoilers videos that we've done. We will talk a little bit of spoilers tonight at 8 o'clock, just to sort of touch base on the episode. So want to forewarn you with that. We talked about it about a week or so ago, so I don't think there's real major shockers, but we will talk about the episode and what we're looking forward to tonight. So let's get into just, I'm going to start out, I think with Rick. Is I can either go kind of love or hate here. And I don't think that I was like your typical hardcore Rick fan. That I like Rick, I like the story, but there's so many other characters that I've sort of appreciated and watched them grow. And I know that's not the same for many of you. Many of you, it's like Rick is the beginning and Rick is the ending. However, I do know that Rick is vital to the show. His story is vital to the show, and I think that's where that love really comes into from the fans. And let me take this in a more charged up situation. How did you feel when and I'm not a comic fan, but I know it happened at least for a little bit of time when Superman died, and some of these major characters. So I want to kind of throw this out to the group. Can you think of a character who has a hero character who has died that has left a big impact on you as a fan of a show. Not just somebody that was a lead of a show that died, but a lead that was also a hero for many, many years. And you sort of followed that and you look forward to it, and it sort of breathed a little bit, gave you a little more spring in your step. Drama, I'm not 100% ready to say that, but I am going to kind of go down that direction, at least for now, for the potential of a Rick death. And then we will sort of sugarcoat it a little bit and talk about some exit scenarios. But I think the exit of the show, I think, is still going to have a prolonged impact on fans. And I'm kind of looking, and I got to be honest, it's weak. I mean, some of the characters, and I know many of you are thinking right now, you're like, hey, hang on, let me think of a character. Let me think of a hero. Let me think of someone. And the reason you can't think of a lot of people out there is because it doesn't typically happen. Okay, so Frankster says Carl. All right, I'll give you that. Beth says Sasha. And then I've seen Glenn. But those are all secondary and tertiary characters to this show. You can't, one conscious, Glenn as well. You can say Glenn, but Rick's impact on the show is it's such a wider net than any other character we've seen on The Walking Dead. So I want you to kind of expand a little bit more and think about another show. Think about a show where there was a clear hero and a clear evil. Braveheart, movie, but even still, X-Files, Mulder leaving, and there are examples, Deadpool's girlfriend, but I have to tell you, somebody from the Vikings, Beverly, I'm not trying to make fun of that, but once again, they're, Rob Stark, Ned Stark, but only for a couple seasons. Sorry if you guys are Game of Thrones fans or if you've never watched it. Still not the same. Jeffrey says Tony Soprano. I would argue I don't know that Tony Soprano was a hero like Rick Grimes. So I can't. I'm baffled. So the impact of the fans is going to be phenomenal. I know we're trying to ramp up to that. I know we're trying to get to that point. But I've gotten more messages over the last couple months from people saying, Kills, I understand it's a TV show, and I understand that, we know that these are actors, and they have families, and they have real-life things that happen. But Rick embodies hope for me. He, the way he leads, the way we accept him. And the more I think about that, Dave offered out, I would say, Han Solo might be the most closely aligned situation that I can think of to Rick's death. I wouldn't disagree with that. Rick is the Han Solo of The Walking Dead. But even still, Han Solo is not the definitive lead. He's up there. I mean, he's sharing a little bit, but I think it's very rare that we see someone that is at the top of the pedestal, and that is Rick Grimes. But I will say the Han Solo situation did bother me, but you're also talking about a movie as opposed to a TV show that we watch, and yes, we do follow that path, but this is something that we kind of do like a weekly check-in. When Star Wars, you watch a movie, you get hyped about it, it's like, yeah, this happened, and you talk about it. The Walking Dead is, we see it, and then we talk about it, and then we enjoy it, and then we go back to it. So, I'm not going to say that Walking Dead is going to be the biggest show of all time. I guess it would be equivalent to, if you think of some of the, it is in such a unique realm that I'm just baffled trying to come up with an example. And even though Rick has done some things, we forgive him. And I don't think that I've been fair in really fully assessing the value of Rick Grimes. And I'm not that I downplay it. I definitely don't downplay it. But also, I'm trying to sort of quill it a little bit and not fan the flames. But I think we're going to fan the flames over the next few weeks. Not in an angry way, but in a way that fully shows how much of an impact. I think it's the right thing to do. Initially, I thought, we could just kind of talk about some other topics most of the time, and we will. But this is going to be an important 5 weeks. It's going to be an important reaction video at the end of it, how it goes down. And I do think that I want to go more along the lines of, even if I think it's epic that there's a final moment that we see life through Rick, I still don't want him to leave. I still don't want him to exit the show. I want it to be corny, and I want it to be open-ended. And I want him to be able to come back and have a lasting impact on the show. And I got a super chat, so we'll jump back into that in 1 second. If you guys are new, this is a little earlier stream, and we do have some of our international audience here, so I want to thank, we're trying to mix up a few different times. I want to thank everybody for being here. This won't be a super long stream. We'll probably keep it 30, 40 minutes, because we're going to do multiple streams today. But let me get to the super chat. I think the Commonwealth will get the leader. So, I am perfectly okay with the Commonwealth taking Rick and the Commonwealth and Rick disappearing. I almost need that at this point, because the exit of the show, I don't think that we're going to be able to prepare for it. Epic, brutal, those are words that are described. But I think the word that we should really be looking for is legacy. And I think it's very important. I'm going to try to hit on a topic right here. I don't usually harbor grudges. And please, I don't expect you to. We don't want to go stand out in front of Angela Kang's office and start chanting or do anything silly along those lines. When people die on The Walking Dead, we slowly forget. And hold on, don't lash out at me just yet. I'll tell you what I mean by this. If Rick dies, it gets buried. And it gets buried under the second half of season 9. And then it gets buried under season 10. And then it gets buried under season 11. And hold on, Candy. Give me a second to kind of explain this. It will. It will be diminished. Because we're gonna want more Walking Dead, and history lessens the impact. When Glenn died, it was powerful in that moment. And 6 months later, it was less powerful. And today, it's a memory. It's uncomfortable, but it's not like it was at the moment that it happened. When Carl died, it's exactly the same. And if Rick dies, it's going to be exactly the same. But it's in degrees. I understand. You guys are not telling me anything that I don't know, that Glenn is not Rick. But 5, 6, 8 seasons lessens the impact of the original Walking Dead. Whether it's... one thing that I can say for sure. You can be destroyed, and you can be upset, and you can be emotional the day after Rick dies, if he dies. And 6 months later, you will not be as emotional as you are the day that you first see it. And a year later, you'll be less emotional. And 5 seasons later, you'll either be a fan of the show or you won't be a fan of the show, but it will lessen the impact. It is absolutely true. It is. I will fight tooth and nail with this, with anybody that disagrees. And I can be impassioned, but I will tell you, people will leave the show. I'm not disputing that. But people that continue to watch the show, and if you put 6 seasons on top of a Rick Grimes death, there will still be a connection to Rick. There will still be an appreciation of Rick, but it will be lessened. It's happened in Game of Thrones. It's happened on other TV shows. It's happened where we thought something was going to happen. And that is, Casey, I'm going to talk about irritation. I'm not telling you that I won't be irritated, and I'm not telling you not to be irritated. And I know some people will be irritated to a degree that they won't even turn on the television again. And one conscious, you're right. He'll be a memory. And that's sad. That is unfortunate. I'm not condoning it. Please don't twist my words and misunderstand, what I'm trying to convey here. I'm actually building an argument that you'll probably understand a little bit better when I get to it. It's exactly right, Lisa. It's how the brain processes. It's how writers write stories. It's how we adapt. It's how we change. When I have people saying that, Kills, we're going to need a therapy session after we watch The Walking Dead. The reason we're going to have a therapy session is to lessen the impact of what we just witnessed. And it won't, if you're 100% upset, it ain't going to get you down to 0. But the goal is that we talk about it and get you down to 95 and then 90. And then a little time passes, and then there's another story, and then there's another character, and it gets you down to 80. And it gets you down 50-50 where, yeah, man, I sure as hell miss Rick. And then it's going to be like, oh, I wish Rick was here helping them fight. It's like it was with Abraham. And then it's going to be a memory, and it's going to be a diminished memory. And this is the problem that I have with Rick dying on the show. This is why I agree to a certain extent. And this is why I hate Beta. And this is why I hate the Whispers. And this is why I don't appreciate the comic storyline. Because the more evil they are, the more we're going to transition our need for Rick and our appreciation of Rick to other people that maybe don't deserve it quite as much. Let me explain that again. I am going to be forced to appreciate Negan if Rick dies and the Whispers are more evil than Negan. I am going to be manipulated into that. So I'm not wasting any time of taking off the gloves and saying, I hate Beta. I don't appreciate Beta. I don't appreciate the comic story. The actor is the actor. The actor's fine. But let me give you a couple adjectives to describe Beta. If you don't know who Beta is, go to Walking Dead Wiki, and the first couple words you're going to see to describe Beta is brutal, unmoving, obedient to a fault, obeys alpha, savage, fast, strong, unmovable. I mean, these are things that describes him. These are things that we're gonna see after Rick. These are things that the writers are hoping that when people check out and they say, "Oh, we lost Rick," they throw the remote through the TV, and then a couple weeks later they start to hear, "Oh my God, did you hear about that? What happened in The Walking Dead? Did you hear what they did to Jesus? Did you hear what they did to Aaron? Did you hear what they did?" And it's going to hit a nerve with a certain amount of people. I'm going to get back to that in 1 second because I'm going to be fired up with this. Lakeisha says, I love Rick, and I'm apologizing because it will set me off. He's impacted the characters like he's impacted us. If he dies, I will need to vent over and over. I understand Andy, and then I don't. Lakeisha, I'm struggling to blame Andy, and I love that comment because I guess we could say, where does it end? And this is not a spur-of-the-moment decision by Andrew Lincoln. This is a conversation that he started having in Season 4. Does that make you feel any better, or does it make you feel any worse? Knowing that Rick Grimes was here for 4 seasons, and Andy had already talked about leaving after 8. I don't want to ever stop someone from their own livelihood, but I can understand how there's some anger directed at Andy. And I want to ask the group. I want to throw this out there to everybody. I'm not afraid to ask it. Are any of you disappointed? Obviously, Lakeisha is. Are any of you disappointed that we fly, we sacrifice, we talk about it, we love these characters, we buy the bobbleheads, we dress up as these characters for Halloween and Comic-Cons and all of these things, and Andy is leaving that behind? And that's what I want to know. I'm not saying that there is some sacrifice with family, but we're kind of a family too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to overplay the hand here, but I think that it's a job. I have to ask all of you a question. And Mel the Vulture. My man Kills, you're charged up this Sunday. I am charged up, Mel, and thank you so much for that super chat. Everybody super chatted so far. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys being here early, getting involved in the chat, getting involved in the channel. And we're going to do several streams today. So hopefully I won't be super fired up the whole day. But here's the question I have for you. If you feel like answering this question, you can. If you don't, don't. How many people work? There's silence here. How many people would like to quit their job and spend a little bit more time with their family? Like I said, I'm not trying to get into your personal business here. I want to kind of throw this out there to make an example. How many people would like to work about 6 months out of a year? Maybe 7. Have 4 or 5 months off. Make $1 million an episode, which could be negotiated. He doesn't need the money. I'm not picking on Andy. I just want to bring up the conversation. So there is a part of me that respects his choice. In Lakeisha, there's a part of me that is bothered by his decision. There are some people like Mel that would like to be on Fear the Walking Dead that get killed off, that would love that role that Andrew Lincoln is saying no to. Dave, I'm going to leave that one alone. Dave, your comment reminds me of that fantasy football commercial. It says, "What's your number one fantasy?" And he says, "To leave my family and just disappear." And he goes, "No. Who are you picking number one?" So yeah, I understand. There's both sides of it. So here, you know what? I would embrace the Walking Dead community from start to finish. And thank you, Mel. It was kind of it was a subtle jab, right? I don't hate Andy. And I think drama, that's the important part of what I'm trying to get at. I respect his decision, but I, like many other fans, I think have a right to question that decision. Not to stop the decision, but if we don't understand things, I think it's okay to question it, to ask and to point out. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying he's like, yeah, finally, and I'm done with this show, and now I get to spend more time. I think it's a struggle either way. And there's a connection to the actors. But I'm going to take a little softer approach because I have probably been one of the real ringleaders to say, you know what, if you're a real fan, you watch the show, you watch the story, and you know why? Because that's me. But I can't push that viewpoint upon other people who have told me point blank, if Andy can leave the show, Kills, I can leave the show. And I'm a little speechless with that. At first I was. You guys know I don't remain speechless for long. But I have been kind of on that wave of saying, hey, you need to step up. If you're a real fan, you like the show, you like the show. If not, if you're just here for Rick, then that's fine. But I think that's an unfair criticism that I've given several people. And I will absolutely 100% agree with this super chat. This is Mel the Vulture coming back. And Mel, we miss you on Fear the Walking Dead. They should have kept you. They should have brought you over to the good side, taken over for Morgan. The fact that so many people are upset is a clear indicator of how spectacular he's played the role. Not easy for him to walk away. Hard as a fan to accept the choice. And I think I probably could not have said it any better. And hopefully you guys can see I'm sort of straddling that line between I want the character of Rick Grimes. I understand Andy's decision. And on the other side, I still want the character of Rick Grimes. And I don't want to accept his decision, right? So either way, the one universal is that I want the character of Rick Grimes, and we need the character of Rick Grimes, and the show needs the character of Rick Grimes, and the appreciation for the character, partly because of the way Andy played the role, but also because of the way that Robert Kirkman wrote the role as well. I mean, those are things that I, this is love and hate. So, yeah, I probably need. I'm going to settle down by tonight's stream. But either way, and the way we started this stream is the character of Rick Grimes is bigger than Andrew Lincoln. It's bigger than the show. It's important to people outside the show that have entrusted in that character, in that hero. And it's different than a Glenn, a Carl, a Spencer, so many people that impact has manifested into people's personal beliefs and personal life. Let me jump over to Lakeisha with a super chat. Says, okay, come on, guys. I understand work-life balance, but he's coming back to direct. How many episodes? How long are those flights back and forth? And once again, I'm right there with you, Lakeisha, and I've got people making points on both sides of the argument. So, number one, let me say, this stream was meant to divide a little bit. It was meant to be opinionated. It's not meant to isolate, and it's not meant to piss anybody off. So when we get to that, you guys need to reel it back in, and remember, we're discussing. We can have our beliefs in here. We can analyze both sides of it. But the one thing we will stay true to is the fact that we will hold discussions. And let me also say, they would double his salary to keep him there. Corey, I think that's a good point. Andy doesn't know what it's like to be a fan. This is his job, period. People get burned out with their jobs. Yes and no. I mean, I think everybody knows what it's like to be a fan of something. And I think it's easy for Andy to say, I understand, how much people like this role, how much, they understand the character of Rick Grimes. I think he does get that to a degree. Not to the degree of the hardcore superfans, but I think he has a decent pulse of what he means to the show. And I don't think we can really, get down to someone's DNA and say, well, what level of appreciation does he have? But I would say he's probably less of a fan than each and every one of us. But not by a long shot. And I'm not, once again, I'm not trying to, fan the flames a little bit. But we're more fans because we're not there working. We're not putting in the hours. Now, let me kind of get back to that proving the point. This chat is exactly what it's like to love a character. To love a character to a degree that is your hero on the show. That is the reason you tune in. You're upset with their personal decisions to leave the show because you feel like they owe more and they need to do more. And I think that's a fair argument. I think it's fair to want him to do more for the show. Doesn't have to. But at the same time, Lisa, you're absolutely right. It's a journey that people take together. And I don't want to lose sight of that. And as well, and I see varying degrees. I see, part of the audience is saying, let the man do what he's going to do. And then I see people saying, it's a journey we take together. Don't fault people for feeling slighted because they want to finish the journey with the person they started the journey with. I'm not talking about the actors. I'm not talking about the characters. I'm talking about the fans and the super fans. Let me give you an example. And I'm going to ask you guys to do me a favor. I'm going to ask the moderators to do me a favor and just tone it down just a bit. Okay? Just a touch. Because it's very passionate. So let's wind it down a little bit. I'm going to give you another example. Because I think it's important that people are very polarized by this topic. Get to some middle ground. So I'm going to get back to some middle ground. A couple weeks ago, there was a football player who went out on the field with his teammates, and at halftime said, I quit. There were fans that bought his jersey. There were people that cheered for that team. And there were people that said, you just quit on the team. There are other people that said, it's his right because that's his livelihood, longevity, so on and so forth. They're both perspectives to this. But you also have to be able to see the perspective of people that are saying, look, he makes $500,000 an episode because we watch and we care and we drive it. And there's people saying, no, he did such a good role with that he deserved it. And you can argue either one of those topics. You can certainly argue either one of those topics. What's getting lost in the whole concept of this is that the reason we blame him and the reason that we need him is exactly because we love that character. Point proven. Sign it, stamp it, send it in a letter. Point proven. Now, to transition, and we will talk more and more about the commitment, the obligation. Believe me, this is not going to be a one-time deal. I am going to finish this stream today with saying, it is, in my opinion, that Beta will be the darkest, most evil, most despicable, worst, brutal, unmoving, savage character you will ever see on The Walking Dead. And unfortunately, many fans are not going to get the chance to see that because they're solely going to be interested in the story of Rick Grimes. And after Rick leaves in 5, and they pay a little tribute to him in 6, and we see the Whisperers in 6, and then we see him in the second half, some people will never see that evil. But some will come back. But at the same time, what I'm going to say to all of you that are Andrew Lincoln defenders and Andrew Lincoln detractors, careful. Because if you say Rick has a right, and Andy has a right to leave the show, if fans have that same right, which they do, and if the show does not get the following, does not maintain the viewers, does not transition to the Whisper story, does not get the advertising dollars, does not get re-signed long term, ends in a season or 2 seasons, then we can certainly go back to that moment and say how important was Andrew Lincoln and how important was the character of Rick Grimes. And if this becomes the beginning of the end, because the story just doesn't transition, and because people as viewers have the same right to turn off the television as someone who acts can walk away to spend time with their family, they absolutely have a right. It is entertainment. It is something that people look forward to. It is a discussion. And Mel, I would argue it's not just entertainment. It's travel. It's Comic-Con. It's Walker Stalkers. It's communities. It's salaries. It's so much more. If you look at really the key point, this is a big, big deal. Not just for Rick leaving. It's a big deal of the domino effect of everything else that happens with this. And people can downplay it and say it's just an actor wanting to spend more time with his family. But it is so much more than that, because it is the initial point of contact in The Walking Dead. It is the comic. It is the TV show. It is the storyline. And that could potentially be buried. And the Whisper may salvage that arc. The evil in the Whispers, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, is going to have to bring his game. People are going to be cheering for Negan. They're going to be cheering for Dwight. They're going to be cheering for Magna. They're going to be cheering for Daryl. But if it doesn't maintain it, I think we've all made the point, and we can come back to this issue and say it's not his fault, but it definitely could be a byproduct of that decision. I'm going to leave you guys to think about that. I appreciate everybody who was involved in this. This is love and hate. Wanted to get everybody riled up, wanted to get the passion out there. Agree or disagree, one thing I need you guys to do: hit the like button if you agree. Hit the dislike button if you disagree. Absolutely enjoyed spending a little time with you guys and bringing a little bit of fire and a little bit of passion into one of our Walking Dead streams. We will do a less rabid stream a little bit later on in the afternoon, probably around 4 o'clock. And, of course, we will count down and we'll talk about the show and enjoy the show. So hopefully everybody had a wonderful, supercharged Sunday morning. Get out, cut some grass, go to church, eat some brunch. We tried to light a fire here, and I need that to carry through all the way through tonight's episode. Thanks, everybody. I will talk to y'all soon, and looking forward to seeing you in the next stream. Peace.